Hello and welcome back to The Stage Door, presented on Rogers TV by Canberra Arts. I hope you've had a wonderful holiday season. It's been a great break from all things, especially after such a busy December. But not only a busy December, but a busy fall. It's been an arts-filled season. Of course, as January rolls around, things start to slow down until toward the tail end of February. But I just wanted to send a note to all of our viewers that there are lots of things coming in the spring. Not only from Canberra Arts itself, but from the Arts and Culture Centre, the Rotary Arts Centre, our friends at Off-Broadway Players. Corner Brook is actually hosting the Provincial Drama Festival, so groups from around the whole province are going to be here in spring. So keep an eye out wherever you buy your theatre tickets, and take the time to buy it in advance and plan things out. There's lots of exciting things coming up from all of those wonderful places. I'm here with Brandon Hillier, who's going to talk about one of those exciting things coming up in the spring. This March, Canberra Arts is taking the time to present Oliver, the classic musical by Lionel Bart, featuring over 100 performers on stage, in the pit, backstage helping out, designers. It's going to be quite the show, March 13th to 15th, and I will say before we get started, tickets are on sale at the Arts and Culture Centre website, so you could buy them in advance or call their box office or drop in if you would like to get tickets for that now. Based on last year's success of Music Man, it will likely be quite full houses for that. So, Brandon, welcome to the Stage Door. It's good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
It's always a privilege to get to talk about something that Canberra Arts is doing on this show. We're also so fortunate to be able to celebrate so much that's going on in Corner Brook. So, Brandon, we'll start with you. You're from the Corner Brook area, from Western Newfoundland, have spent some time living a bit of a nomadic lifestyle, place to place, as many artists do.
Yes, that's right.
But let's go back to the roots. Where did it all begin for you as an artist?
Well, when I was a very little child, my parents owned a home in Benoit's Cove, so I grew up down there. And so my very first opportunity ever to do anything involved in the arts was through their sort of band, choir programs. And so they introduced an opportunity to do a musical for the first time, which was a big taking on by the single arts-based teacher that was in the school. He decided to do a production of A Christmas Carol. And so through doing that, did auditions. Most people in Benoit's Cove at the time were not particularly interested in doing a musical. So I think I stood out among the few, but it was that classic opportunity to like get your chance to try something really exciting, to get on to put on those beautiful costumes, to learn music and then perform it in front of your community. So in that classic way, it was where I got the bug. And so that's when I started acting for the first time, and that's how I came into theater, was through acting. And then later on, my family moved to Pasadena, and they actually still live there. And I continued through the schools being able to do musicals as well. And so I performed in those musicals. One of the really great parts of that was that we did one every year. And so during my high school years up there, I got to do quite a few by the time I had finished high school. Which really cemented the idea for me that I should continue to do this for the rest of my life. So I applied to go to the Grenfell Theatre program, got in, luckily. And so I went through the Grenfell Theatre program as an actor, studied acting through them. But it wasn't very long after I left Grenfell that I realized that I had a lot of interest well beyond being a performer, and my work soon took me into work in the technical fields, in both sound and lighting, but also as a stage manager, which I've done quite a bit of work, stage managing professionally the Avalon, which has been a phenomenal opportunity to work with some of my heroes in the field, really. I just recently come off a tour across Newfoundland and through Labrador with Andy Jones, his most recent one-man show. And so I got to work with him quite closely and had an amazing time with that. But yeah, so worked then technically for a long time, and then as my career went on and sort of developed, and what I learned through my education and experience as an actor, and also that technical work, those things began to blend together and really led me to where I am now as a director, wanting to build these great collaborative projects that that combine all that education, all that experience, all that interest into a large program, into a large concept, and continue to put off these beautiful works, which is what brings me back now.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great kind of full circle there, and clearly, you know, like many folks that we've had on the show, it shows that in the arts it gains a lot of versatile skills. You have to wear a lot of those hats and be prepared to wear them to kind of get those opportunities and get to travel around. And I will note, you know, I think a lot of people's artistic journey begins with that arts teacher in the school.
Absolutely.
And there is so much often expected of that arts teacher in our school system to, you know, do the full musical, to do the acting, the singing, the choreography, if there is any, falls to that that person. And I've had the great fortune through Canberra Arts and Graham Academy to do some outreach in our local schools and volunteer with them to present musicals, and I think it's one of our major pillars at Canberra Arts is education, largely helms through Graham Academy, our program, but also those outreach opportunities, which the community show happens to be one. And I'll say too, one of the things we talked about is you actually have a little microcosm of your own here through this show, through that teacher that had those yearly annual musicals in Pasadena. Actually being involved in the pit. So what was that like to kind of discover this connection? You haven't been in the same room yet.
I know.
You know, that's going to happen as the process goes on.
I really can't wait. It's interesting because one of the only parts of this production that I'm not a part of was selecting the band. All the things that I know, bands is not it. So our excellent music director put the band together. And so when I found out that Kathy Din is her name, if you're listening, Kathy, she's coming on board to be in the pit. And so when I found that out, I was so thrilled because, as you just said, it really was such a huge impact on my life to work with her at that really crucial development period. And she, like many teachers in this province and you know, really across the country, they do way more than they're expected to do, and that is what really makes the difference. You know, doing those musicals was her idea and gave me an opportunity to work on a bunch of material all over a series of years that then worked essentially as a bottleneck and a springboard into what would later become my career. So getting to come back now, moving back here from the Avalon where I've been for over a decade, working out there professionally, to come back home, to be around friends and family and collaborators, and then to, like you said, come full circle and have this mentor of mine from my past come be a part of this project and be a collaborator in a whole new way, and also in many ways to be able to show off what I've become, you know, and be proud of what I've become.
Yeah, no, I think it's certainly an exciting homecoming opportunity, you know. You and I both went through the theater program, started at the same time. I won't talk about the ending, but I think it is such a gift, though, that, you know, you took a year to look at doing business and gain some skills from that, and then came back to the arts. And since then, you've really showcased, I think, in many ways, both of those things through not only jobs like stage management, which we'll talk a little bit about, because I think it's a job that is often not spoken about, but being things like a driver for some comedians, with Just for Laughs, some major comedians. So finding those opportunities to be in the arts, there's so much that is arts adjacent that is so fulfilling and enriching, and finding those abilities to connect. So, you know, as you finished the program and headed on, what led to those steps to becoming more of a stage manager, events coordinator, driver, jack of all trades? You know,
there's probably about 14 more
and
on
what
that
were some
list.
highlights too, I should say, you know, within that list.
Well, I think what a lot of people, not just in the arts, but in a lot of careers, especially when you do post-secondary education, whether it be college or university or so forth, is that you do education for the specific job. You study acting to be an actor. And everyone sort of thinks of it being simple that way, and I think a lot of times it can be the case. But in this career, as is true of many careers, you often find out that the world's much larger than you thought, and that there are actually jobs that you could do that you've never heard of, and you now have some of the skills to do that. And so I think what really happened for me is that when I went to work in the arts as a whole, I was always interested to know what others were doing. I want to learn from the people who were working near me, not necessarily with me. So I was on stage as an actor or in rehearsal rooms as an actor, and then ever watching what the director was doing, and ever watching what the stage manager was doing, and ever wanting to be around when they were discussing the lighting and taking sort of mental notes, just ever the sponge for information. And that as a general practice, as a professional and as an individual, has led to all kinds of great opportunities to mirror people, for mentor opportunities, and as is often the case in the technical parts of theater, when your mentors are sought after people and they are not able to take every job that comes their way, often you can have the great benefit of kind of being the next call on the list, you know? And so in many ways, when I first moved to St. John's, that's kind of how it all began. So I took small jobs working in the technical field. I volunteered my time to work with people that I wanted to know and learn from. And as a result of that, got myself in some different rooms and different positions. And then also, just simply the longer you do it, the more people you know. And especially if you're lucky enough to have some rise in your career, you get to meet more and more people that at one time may have been heroes of yours, may have been people you saw on television or grew up knowing the name of, and then you are lucky enough to become collaborators with them. When I worked at Perchance Theater, I got to work with the artistic director there, Danielle Irvine, who is a legend in her own time as a director. And she led to the opportunity, because of her long work in film, she had a contact from Just for Laughs reach out to her and ask about people who were working in the field in St. John's, because Danielle had earlier in her career worked in film as well. And so just simply because of her old contacts and someone wanting to make a connection, my name came up. And so I ended up getting to work with Just for Laughs, first driving for Jimmy Carr, the British comedian, and then later driving for Dara O'Brien, who is an Irish comedian. These are names that some people will probably recognize. And then it even went further than that. After making a good impression with those people, I was able to then do a part of a national tour, actually as a producer, and worked with Roy Wood Jr., and a bunch of other, I won't get into all the names. It's maybe too many names dropped at this point. But yeah, it really is just sort of being, showing the best of yourself, making connections, and then following kind of where the path goes, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
No, and I think that's really the reality of this industry. That makes it pretty unique, is that your educators, your role models, your superstars can so quickly become your peers. So quickly.
So quickly.
You know, it's a fascinating journey, because everyone is connected. It really is, and I think that's an exciting thing to share, is that connection. You know, how doing a theater job led to this, led to stage management skills, led to producing, you know, and all of those in between are essential cogs that make this machine work.
Yeah.
And I think speaking on that is a great way to start talking about community theater. You know, this is the second annual community theater project from Canberra Arts. Our first was last year's The Music Man in February, which I was able to be a big part of as Harold Hill. We had Jerry Etienne directing that, which is great. A former teacher of both of us.
That's right.
Was then our peer and collaborator. And Brandon was actually in that cast as well. So it's a really special place. I think anyone who has been a part of community theater knows that feeling, whether it was through the Theatre Newfoundland Labrador musicals that were happening, the off-Broadway player shows that are happening, or recently, our Canberra Arts Winter Community Musical that is happening. So, Brandon, for you, what would you say are the values of community theater? You've been in a lot of them yourself as well.
I have been in a lot. I've been in a lot of community theater. Well into my professional career, I never gave up community theater because I love it so much. I cannot sing the praises of community theater enough. Connecting it to what we talked about earlier when it comes to how children often get involved in theater for the first time, it can be through those arts educators, whether it be through their, the school board or the regular school, or it might be through specialized training programs like Canberra Arts. As adults, we don't have that many opportunities to get introduced to new things that we might want to do as a hobby, or could be potential career change, or these sort of things. And so a community theater opportunity is this great, beautiful moment where you can have people all the way from having barely even seen a play before, all the way up to lifelong professionals who've been working in their career for decades and decades and decades. And so this great mentor opportunity where skills are shared, where the excitement of fresh faces can actually deeply impact the positive feelings of professionals who maybe after doing it for many, many years, maybe they forget some of the joy of it. And so that actually can be reignited through sharing it with new, fresh faces. And so I just absolutely love community theater for that reason. And Corner Brook is such a lucky place for having so much of it. It had a big impact on me, and I'm thrilled to be back to now be a part of that in a sort of authority position in this project, to be able to instill this new generation or generations of potential artists in our community. So it's thrilling.
Yeah, no, I think it is. It's such a gift to, be involved, to get to work with a lot of people who went through the theater program at Grenfell, have called Corner Brook home, and community theater is a way that they keep involved, even while still being professionals in the summer stock seasons around the province. When they're home, they don't want to have to travel as much, and it gives a great opportunity, and it is all about building community, and I think one of the gifts that we've discovered on our journey at Canberra Arts is we have youth from grade 3 all the way up to our adults. So what that has created is families that are bringing their kids, generations of people bringing their kids to be a part of something together. Teachers, I teach in the program, so does Jennifer Billard, and we're both able to be involved and get to work with our students in a different capacity. And I just think that is such a joy. And our choreographers, Amy and Amelia, Amy Andrews and Amelia Hiranaka, are both in our program, but also able to connect with our community members. Of course, Amy is no stranger to the community and community musicals. But Amelia, really, it's helping establish those connections here. Someone who has, again, chosen this place to call home and works as an artist from here, which is so amazing that we have such a vibrant teaching artist community. And Alison Clark, of course, rounding out the leadership team doing the music direction. So it's a real gift. We have a band that is largely people with music degrees.
That's right.
Like
a highly educated band.
What's on the stage? There's a lot of professionals. What's in the pit? I would say it's mostly it's astounding. How many educators in our community want to be in that pit. Like, what a great gift that is. And I want to give a shout out to all of those people, some of whom have brought some students into the pit as well.
Yes,
so we have
absolutely.
some high school students playing alongside their teachers. So what a neat opportunity that Alison has built through Canberra Arts' project. I think it's been a gift, and I hope that you're at the kind of start of yours feeling the same in your position, that, yes, this is produced by us at Canberra, but the director gets to shape so much of that. And you've already found one way that will the show is Oliver. So it talks about Oliver Twist, that journey through that era of London. Our key characters, we have Fagin with his gang of thieves, the Artful Dodger, Bill Sykes, Nancy, along with some wonderful featured characters throughout the show as well. And I think it's just a key thing to say is right off the top, after auditions, you looked at Nancy and her kind of younger sidekick, Bet, and made a decision around those roles that allowed for more community engagement, but also to tell the story in a really clear lens that shows the society that is being presented. So what type of thought goes into a decision like that? And through the show, I'm sure there will be many other decisions.
Well, I hope so. I guess to sort of answer your question or to build off of some of your points there, most of the viewers who will know Oliver Twist, either from the classic novel by Charles Dickens or by the film, which was a film version of the musical that came out in the 70s, which has been a fan favorite for every day since, really. Yeah. Anyone who knows that film and who will know the musical from that film, this stage version is actually even more than that. There are a lot of songs that don't appear in the film version. There are some of the storytelling is told in a different way that is better for film, that's different for the stage. So people who come to see this show are going to get something larger and fuller than what they may have expected, while also being true to their favorite parts of that classic material. And so in that capacity, when you have something that's near and dear to people's hearts, that is a fan favorite from a bunch of different sources, you have a really important job to protect that and to present that in a true to form way. But also, if I just want to go in and do a stage version of that movie, it would make for a pretty boring play, I think. Why would you need me to do that? So what's great about our production is that it's going to be those favorite moments and then more, and taking advantage of the skills we have here in Corner Brook and taking advantage of the kind of story we want to tell in our home theater here at the Arts and Culture Center, which we're very lucky to have. So in many ways, the decision making is not just about looking at this really great story that is based in something rich and interesting and relevant in many ways, but it's also finding these great, interesting places to put our own touch on it. And so I think what you were referencing earlier is that in the original stage version of the play, which has been done many times, Nancy, which is the main sort of female lead, has a kind of sidekick, Bet, who is with her most of the time throughout the play. And they're like a little duo. And so in this production, I've actually turned that character of Bet into two characters and made it into a trio. And the thinking behind doing so is because I want to highlight in this production that the stories that we're telling, and they're about, as much as it is a fun play, as much as it is interesting and is exciting, there's moments of this play that are about abuse. There are moments of this play that are about poverty. There are moments about this play that are about exploitation of children, young adults, and the elderly alike in many capacities. And so those things being major themes in this play, what I'm excited about is not just showing this story and saying, oh, well, these things happened to Nancy because these are the things that happened to Nancy. What I want to say through this play is that the things that happened to Nancy could have happened to, and indeed did happen to, many other young women just like her that don't show up on this stage. Or when the curtain drops, in this imaginary world, these kind of things continue to happen 2 blocks down on the other side of the Thames or whatever. So in doing this expansion and cutting Bet into two characters and now having a trio of them, it gets you to see 3 faces and kind of sees 3 stories that have overlap and are connected and exemplify the fact that this is not a singular story. It is a slice of a great big story that was happening all over London in the early 19th century.
And make sure we're adding something to the tapestry that is so rich and strong and woven here in Corner Brook. Off-Broadway Players has been doing an amazing job presenting shows in the fall. That's been everything from those classics to a lot of rock shows recently to this fall having a bluegrass show, Bright Star, which was just like totally different type of sound coming out. So it's a real gift to have all of that happening and to be a part of it in our community, to feature students from grade 3 all the way to adults, one of whom, Mark Smallwood, I believe he worked out that he is the only person in the cast that was in all 3 iterations of Oliver. Edmund McLean's production in the, I think, late 80s, early 90s with Theatre Newfoundland Labrador. Cliff Lejeune's production in the 2000s with Theatre Newfoundland Labrador. And now Canberra Arts' production, directed by Brandon Hillier, in the 2020s. So what an odd thing to say. It is kind of an every 20-year thing, but
he's showing his age there. He's,
oh dear. Well, you know, I think it is such a wonderful thing, you know, to be one of the pickpockets, to Bill Sykes, the villain, to, in our production, he's Fagin. He's the head of the pickpockets. And for the community, it's important to note that this is a community production. It's all about community. So if you're sitting there like, oh, I wish I knew this was happening, there's still the opportunity to hop on the ensemble. We're just starting those big group rehearsals now. We had our first read-through only at the start of January. So hop on board, send an email to stagemanagement@canberraarts.ca. And join us. The more, the merrier for a community show. It's such a gift, and it is a really great way to fill your winter for those that struggle with the gray and the snow that we tend to have here. It's a real gift to have such a vibrant community to be a part of. And of course, tickets are on sale at the Arts and Culture Centre. If the audience is a place you'd prefer to be, please head to their website or call the box office and grab those tickets in advance. As I said, last year we did sell out with The Music Man, so I do recommend buying in advance to avoid disappointment. It's going to be a really fun show to share. We'll be back in a little, probably a month or so, with an update on that show, maybe a little more, to show you a little bit more, talk to the company once the process is underway. And there's going to be lots of things in Corner Brook in the artistic community that we're going to highlight in between. So until next week, I'll be here at the stage door. See you then.